when we are not happy in ourselves. So we spend our marriage, we spend our relationships nagging, nitpicking, criticizing, judging, shaming our husbands and treating them as they are disposable. Respect is valuing a person as a human being. Hello, I'm Karen Seitz, and this is the Happy Wife School. This podcast is for married women to realize that we are responsible for our happiness, that no one and no thing can make us happy, and that our husbands are not the source of our unhappiness. In each episode, I red pill married women to know that we are the problem in our marriages to good men. For the good men, this podcast will wake you up to the realities of your wife's woman ways, to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to her emasculation in a constructive, caring way. Before we dive into today's episode, a couple reminders. My message is meant for common and usual marital issues. My podcast is not intended for abusive, violent, or compulsive behaviors in a marriage that are threatening or dangerous. Also, please take a second to visit my website and learn more about my courses, which offer solutions for married women and good men. You can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get started. We are talking about 3 ways to regain your husband's respect. So we're going to talk a little bit about respect and what that means. And then we're going to get into 3 things women can do to regain their husband's respect. And I will say to also regain the respect of yourself. So last week on the show, I talked about how to be a good wife. And in one of those segments of how to be a good wife, I talked about the importance of sex, that sex is very important to men in a marriage, that it is part of how they feel loved and respected as a man in the relationship. And I shared that as men and women, we totally miss each other in that department. In that if you ask a good man what's most important to him in a relationship, in a marriage, typically, generally speaking, one of those top 3, if not the top 1, is going to be sex. And if you ask, then what are those other 2 when we look at what's most important to a man in a marriage? Well, respect. Respect is going to be number 1, 2, or 3 for a good man in a marriage. Respect being one of the most important things to a good man in a relationship, which as women, we give no respect to our husbands. We treat our husbands as they are disposable. We treat our husbands that they are there to serve us and what can they do for us. And they can never make us happy when we are not happy in ourselves. So we spend our marriage, we spend our relationships nagging, nitpicking, criticizing, judging, shaming our husbands and treating them as they are disposable. Respect is valuing a person as a human being. Respect in your marriage, ladies, is valuing your husband as a human being. It's very basic. It's fundamentals. You want to treat your husband like you value who he is. When we treat our husbands like they are disposable, that they are there to serve us and our needs, we do not even give them the basic decency of treating them like a human being. We disregard their feelings. We disregard their dreams. We disregard who they are just as a human being. And we have no room for compassion, no room for empathy, no room for acceptance and approval of just who they are. And we become very disrespectful in our marriages and very disrespectful in our relationships with men. And that's part of the red pill. So I call my channel the Happy Wife School, the red pill for women. To me, the red pill is being exposed as women to our destructive nature of being self-centered, selfish, and manipulative. And when we can be red pilled to see that truth of who we are as women, how we treat our husbands, how we treat men, it allows us to develop the self-awareness of these behaviors, of our critical nature, of the ways that we emasculate and shame, of the ways that we are controlling, that we are deceitful, the ways we are highly manipulative of men. We can see that in ourselves, which is what happened for me in my marriage. And then we have the self-awareness to actually work on those things and to change. So the red pill today is recognizing that we don't respect our husbands. We don't treat them as human beings. We treat them as if they are disposable. And when we treat our husbands as disposable and we don't give them the basic decency to value who they are as human beings, that's where then we treat them very poorly. That is where we are emasculating. It's where we are highly emotional in the relationship. We are hot and cold in the relationship. We're unpredictable. Your husband is terrified of who he's going to get when he comes home from work or when you come home from work. And that's something my husband shared with me. We have no integrity to follow through and keep our word to be who we say we're going to be, to make the changes we say we are going to make. And we have no consistency in who we are and how we show up. And then as women, we wonder, why is our marriage the way that it is? Why is my husband withdrawn? Why has he checked out of the relationship? Why does he not do things around the house anymore? Why does he ignore me? And many women listening will think, well, my husband doesn't respect me. He doesn't value me. He doesn't show me respect. I know what you're thinking. I've heard it all. You have to wonder, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did your husband just stop respecting you out of nowhere? Which I can guarantee you is not in a good man's nature. A good man's nature is that he wants to love and adore and respect his wife. So you have to think, if he just stopped respecting me out of nowhere, then that's a reflection of me. That's a reflection of you. If you feel your husband doesn't respect you and you're married to a good man, is how have I shown up that has created that lack of respect in the relationship? And that's a good thing. Because if your husband doesn't treat you with respect and you're married with a good man, I guarantee you it means that's a reflection of you not showing him respect and not giving him the basic decency to treat him like a human being and value him for who he is as a human being. And respect in a marriage for a man is fundamental. So my channel and my message for women is about, what do we have control over to change in ourselves that then has a transformational impact and effect on our marriage and relationship? Because the fundamental truth is the only person we have any control over to change is ourselves. And I am living proof, and the hundreds of women that I've worked with over the last 8 or 9 years are living proof that when you are married to a good man and you change these things within yourself and you begin to respect your husband and treat him with the decency of being a human being, he will go above and beyond. He will slay dragons for you all day. He will lay the moon and stars at your feet. But we have to go first. Because how you feel your husband is checked out, that the man you married disappeared, is a reflection of how you've been treating him in the marriage. And we have lost their respect. They don't respect us when we show up the way that we do and making them wrong, always needing to be right, shaming them, judging them, criticizing them for who they are. They don't respect us. And what I look at in myself is how confusing and crushing it must have been to my husband before I made these changes in myself, to see me be kind and nice to a stranger walking down the street and then be a totally different person with him, of being walled off and cold and distant and pushing him away. So the things I'm going to talk about today, now we want to get into, how do you regain your husband's respect? And by doing the things you need to do to change and regaining his respect, in turn, in doing that, then you're showing him the respect that he deserves as a good man. By working on and changing these things in yourself, then you give him the respect that's important to him. And what I'm going to share, the 3 ways to regain your husband's respect. Why do they regain his respect? And what I want you to be thinking about as I talk about this and teach about this today, because now your husband can see that you are willing to change and step up to the plate. I can't tell you the men I've spoken to, and even what I know my husband experienced many years ago. He would watch me go to therapy. He'd see all the self-help books coming in from Amazon. I had a bookshelf just full of every book that anyone would ever tell me about. I was always doing new trainings or workshops. You guys have heard a lot of the things that I did and what my background and my past is. And it was so confusing and such a letdown to him, because he would get his hopes up of like, is she finally going to change? And then I wouldn't change. And I would just go around in this cycle. So if you can make the changes I talk about today, it's showing your husband that you actually care about him, that you actually care about the marriage, because these are the things that are important to him. And when we don't change the things that are important to them and do the things in the relationship that make all the difference for our husbands, we are giving them the message that we don't care and that we don't give an F about who they are. We don't give an F about the marriage. It's not important to us. So this is the opportunity for you to take a look at yourself in the mirror, just as I have, in a constructive way, not beating yourself up, not making yourself wrong, and looking at, what do I have the power to change? And if you change these 3 things I'm going to talk about today in your marriage, then you're showing your husband that you do have the integrity to follow through, and you can begin to rebuild and have an incredible marriage and relationship together. It doesn't mean there aren't issues and problems that come up, but you and your husband can actually navigate them as a team, as a partnership, and work together and have a real marriage. I'll never forget when I met my mentor and his partner, and she told me, she said, now you and your husband can have a real relationship. And I was kind of confused at that at first of, what do you, we have a real relationship. What are you talking about? And it became very apparent to me very quickly, we did not. And now I know on the other side what that means. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. And that's what I want most. That's why I talk about the hard things, ladies, is to help you wake up and to also help men know they're not crazy, and to open their eyes to what they've been experiencing in their marriage and relationships that they haven't been able to put a finger on. So let's get into the 3 ways to regain your husband's respect. Number 1, make yourself happy. Your husband is not responsible to make you happy, and there is nothing he can do to make you happy. We all know and have heard many, many times that happiness is an inside job. What I also want women to know is that our unhappiness is an inside job. Your husband is not responsible for you being unhappy. You are responsible for being unhappy. And being happy is having a healthy relationship with yourself. It's not feeling happy all the time. It's not being blissed out. It's not the emotion of happy. How we build a healthy relationship with ourselves to be happy is by learning to be committed to grow and evolve into the best version of who we can be, and taking a path of building our character and having integrity. That's the path of happiness. And good men are fundamentally happy. Fundamentally, in their nature, they are happy, meaning they have a healthy outlook on life. Their nature is to strive to do their best. Integrity is very important to good men. It doesn't mean they don't have issues or problems or they don't get off track. But what I learned about why good men have a fundamental nature of being happy, meaning having a positive, pragmatic outlook on life, wanting to be the best version of themselves, following through to have integrity, holding themselves to a high standard of character. How I came to know that is because all a good man wants for his wife is for her to be happy. And if his wife is happy, then he is calm, at peace, comfortable in a good way in the relationship. I see it happen all the time in the dynamics that I have with my husband, where he can be having a tough or challenging day from work, and I come home in good space and pleasant. His whole mood lightens up. We take so much stress off of our husbands, so much burden off of our husbands by doing what we need to do to feel good about ourselves, to be whole and complete in ourselves and just be happy. It's very, very simple. And I've told many of my female clients over the years, please go ask your husband what he most wants for you and come back and tell me what he says. And without fail, they come back. My husband says he just wants me to be happy. That's all they want. And it's because at their nature, that's who they are. And then when we can make ourselves happy, it's not their responsibility. It's ours. When we can make ourselves happy, then that's where we can have a dance with our husbands and have a loving, healthy, lighthearted relationship. And again, it doesn't mean there's not ups and downs. It doesn't mean there's not things that we have to go through and peaks and valleys, but that's where we can go through as a team and have a real partnership. So that's number one. You have to make yourself happy. And that's why I call myself the happiness expert, is because the journey I have been on is what I call the journey of happiness. And that's what I teach other women. I just had a woman finish my happiness program this week. The focus was just on her to learn to have a healthy relationship with herself, just normal, everyday woman, 46, in a relationship. And we met this week after she went through the program. We met this week to help her go over her changes. And the thing that she shared the most was my relationship has done just a total 180. And we are getting along. I have let so much go. I'm not controlling anymore. I tell my partner the things that I would like to do. I'm not wishy-washy, and just the whole relationship has lightened up. And I'm just so grateful he stuck with me and had the patience, because I was a mess before. I can't imagine what it was like to be in a relationship with me. We didn't work on the relationship. We just worked on her. She just worked on herself to build a healthy relationship with herself and feel good about who she is, which is how I define happy. So it's real simple. Your husband can't make you happy. You have to make yourself happy. That's number one. The second way to regain your husband's respect, get the stick out of your butt. And I don't mean to be crude when I say that. What I mean by that is learn to be fun and playful again. As women, we get to a point once we get married where we have a total stick up our butt, and we become rigid and controlling, and we stop having fun. We begin to view having fun, being playful, as frivolous. We view it as irresponsible and immature. And then we put our experience of not having fun anymore, seeing it as irresponsible, seeing it as frivolous. We put that experience on our husbands, and we think they're immature, that they need to grow up. And I can remember how I was in this rigidity when I stopped having fun and I got a stick up my butt. And my husband would kind of poke me and try to play. And I remember like jerking back, or he'd, come even just try to give me a hug in the kitchen and be playful and loving and affectionate in that way, and the ways I would pull away from him. And our husbands wonder, where did the girl that I married go? You might have heard the term or hear people talk about, we become bait and switch brides, where our husbands meet us and we're fun and we're spontaneous and we like to go out and we like to have a good time and we laugh and we're playful and we smile. And then we get married and put our walls up. We get that stick up our butt, and our husbands are like, "Where'd she go? What happened?" It's very confusing to them. As women, when we stop having fun and we stop being playful and we become serious and no fun, we have to know we suck all the fun out of everything. And then we're no fun to be around. And we wonder why our husbands don't want to go do things with us, or they're disengaged from the relationship, or now we're just like roommates. Fun and playfulness is very important to good men. They generally like to be lighthearted and have fun and not take things so seriously. And we have that in us too, ladies. We got to take the stick out of our butt. So that's number 2, second way to regain your husband's respect. The third way to regain your husband's respect, learn to enjoy sex for yourself. Learn to enjoy sex for yourself. I shared last week, I'm going to be talking more about our relationship with sex as women, and especially once we get married and we build walls around sex and we begin to withhold and withdraw from sex with our husbands. So I want to share a little bit in talking about this today. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I want to keep planting seeds as I take a lot of my message in this direction for women, because quite frankly, we've really screwed ourselves up around sex. I was really screwed up around sex. And so I want to share a little bit of something that really clicked with me as I was learning to open up to sex again and enjoy it for myself. That was really important to me. I remember when my husband and I first met, sex was not an issue. And for most of us, we can look back and remember it wasn't an issue. We were excited to get together and have sex. And my mentor helped me to see that I was the problem in sex, because I had made it all about my husband. He doesn't understand what I need. I've changed. I need it to be different. I made sex very complicated. I wanted to read all of these books. I wanted to do some more woo-woo stuff and thought maybe learning about Tantra would help, and all these like alternative ideas and views on sex. And my husband is just a normal, everyday good man. And I can remember as we were going through this in our relationship, he was so frustrated. Like, one, where did this become an issue? Because it wasn't an issue in the beginning. And why are you making it so complicated? It's just sex. Like, we don't need to talk about it at this depth and make it this big deal. You're making it worse. And I wouldn't hear him, didn't want to hear him. And then I started on this path that now I have the honor of teaching. And I was working with my mentor, and I was really pissed because he was trying to help me to see, and ladies, this is what you need to know for yourself. He was helping me to see I was the problem in the issues that my husband and I were having around sex. And this was about 8 or 9 years ago. And I was so frustrated and so mad because I wanted us working on sex to be 50-50 of like, well, no, he's got to meet me here and I'll meet him here. And my mentor was like, no, it's you. Your husband, as a good man, doesn't have a problem with sex. It's very simple. You're the one making it a big deal. You're the one who has all the walls up around it. And I was mad because I didn't want to have to be the one to take 100% responsibility for the issues and challenges. And I didn't want to take responsibility that I was the one that had to change. And so he helped me in a way that I want to help you today. And he helped me make the analogy with something that I love to do. I love to bake. I'm pretty normal, everyday, average woman. I really enjoy baking. And one of my favorite things about baking is then sharing, as long as it's good. I enjoy sharing it then with others. And that's one of my favorite parts about baking. And I don't think twice about that. I go to the store, I spend the time in the kitchen, I put the love and work and effort into whatever I am baking. And then I freely give and want others to enjoy that too. And I'm not going there, well, wait a second, I did all the work Why should they enjoy that? I'm going to keep this cake to myself, which wouldn't be a good idea for me. And so my mentor helped me make the analogy. He said, Karen, sex is like baking. And I probably went cross-eyed a little bit. Sex is just like baking. You're married to a wonderful man. Why wouldn't you do the work on yourself to open up, to get rid of the complexity around sex, all this that you've made it, to just open your heart and learn to enjoy sex for yourself, and then share that with your husband and he gets the benefit. It's just like baking. Why wouldn't you want to share that with the person that you say you love the most? And that clicked for me. I was like, oh, right. And then remembering back to when we first got together and first started dating, it wasn't an issue. So it was me that needed to work on opening back up and dropping my walls and letting go of how difficult I made sex. And so what I want women to know is that sex is about you and how you make yourself feel in sex. Sex is not how someone or something makes you feel. Sex is how you allow yourself to feel. And if you are married to a good man, I promise you, he enjoys sex. It's important to him in the relationship, and he would love nothing more than for you to re-engage and enjoy it for yourself. But we have to drop the complexity and the issues and the baggage that we have built up, the web of stories and issues we have created around sex. And we need to come back to basics. And there's something when I work with my female clients that I like to remind us. And I do not mean this in a crude way, but we need to be reminded sex is really, really simple. It's not any of all the stuff we've made it. It's just a nice, simple, enjoyable pleasure that we can have with the one person we can have sex with, our husbands. It's a nice experience we get to share, and it happens to be incredibly important to your husband in the marriage and how he feels respected. So my message there for the women who are shut down around sex, who have made it a really big deal like I did, it's simple. It's just like baking. Why wouldn't you do that for yourself? It's a healthy thing for you too. It's part of your human experience. And then share that and allow your husband to get the benefit of you re-engaging with sex and enjoying it for yourself. Those are the 3 ways to regain your husband's respect. Number 1, make yourself happy. Number 2, take the stick out of your butt and learn to have fun and be playful again. And number 3, learn to enjoy sex for yourself. To recap and re-summarize what I said in the beginning of the video, the reason this regains your husband's respect is because now you're showing your husband you are willing to change and step up to the plate. By changing these 3 things, you're showing your husband that he and the marriage are important to you. Because by doing these things, being happy in yourself, being fun and playful again in the relationship, learning to enjoy sex for yourself and making it an important part of your marriage, is how your husband feels respected. These are some of the ways. It's not all the ways, but these are 3, what I think, really important ways that if you change these, your husband would feel respected in the relationship, because from this place, you would be treating him like a human being and valuing him for who he is. And instead of giving the message constantly that you don't give an F about him or the marriage, you show him that he and the marriage are important to you. And to boot, you get to be happy, to feel good about yourself, to be fun and playful and enjoy yourself, enjoy life and enjoy marriage, and enjoy sex. One of the most pleasurable things we can do and have as human beings. So this is a way to respect yourself. And in doing that, you give respect to your husband, and you can have respect in the relationship and in the marriage. So for the men listening, what I always want you to take away is that understanding that, one, you didn't get the wrong wife, you got a woman. And on a spectrum, these are the issues and challenges that we as women bring into the relationship. Of course, you can read through all the comments to see men speaking up because they feel they have a place where they can actually be heard and then realize, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this. And here's a woman validating my experience. So it helps you to not feel crazy, but you didn't get the wrong wife. You got a woman, and you need to know that it's common and reasonable that you don't feel respected by your wife. And you want to know that respect is something that is a reasonable request of your wife, that you request she treat you like she values you as a human being and who you are. And for good men who have been emasculated in their marriage and been weakened and lost their confidence and strength as a good man, that's what I teach men, is pulling the curtain back further to understand your experience with your wife as a woman and learning the tools and perspective to regain and rebuild your strength and confidence. Women, what I've talked about today, and making yourself happy, reopening yourself up to fun, and learning to enjoy sex for yourself is very simple. You don't need to go to years of therapy. You don't need to read 100 self-help books. You don't need to go to workshops. You don't need to travel to India. You don't need to run away from your marriage and your life. All you need to do is learn how to be happy in yourself. These are all what I talked about, just symptoms of us being unhappy in ourselves. So when we learn to have a healthy relationship with ourselves and feel good about who we are, that's where we can re-engage in a healthy way in our marriage and our relationship. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. If you haven't, go check me out on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can find the links in the description below to connect with me there. For those women listening who know you are the problem and want a path forward to take responsibility and change your own inner turmoil and unhappiness, I have a course for women called the Happiness Program, which is the solution to the unhealthy relationship you have with yourself and the issues and challenges you have in your life and your marriage. You can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. And for the good men listening who want a solution to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to your wife, I have a course for you too called the Marriage Rescue Course for Good Men Only that teaches you how to rebuild your strength and confidence as a good man so that you can navigate the relationship with your wife in a healthy, constructive way. Again, you can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.